What's up, guys? It's time again already for another Star Wars SH Figuarts review, and today we're taking a look at kind of an interesting one for me because it's a version of a character that I have wanted to see in new media, we'll say, for a very, very long time. We're talking, 20 plus years that I've wanted to see this version of this character, or sort of this version anyway. And then we kind of got him, and my opinion on The Last Jedi is not the most positive one, so we'll kind of leave it at that. But we're getting a Figuarts version of the version of Luke that I have wanted to see in action for a really, really, really long time. So that slightly older, but not old man Luke that could maybe still throw down really well and kind of, towards his peak of being a Jedi Master. And I'm really just excited to be able to have this version on the shelf. So we've got this guy here in our standard retail release packaging for Figuarts. So you've got the big window with the Star Wars logo. You've got a product shot on the side, and then you've got that red and black motif on the other side. And then the back of the package has product shots and cross-sell with Kylo Ren, and then a smattering of accessory pictures there as well. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, guys, our Battle of Crait Luke Skywalker. So, I guess there's no spoilers at this point. So our Force projection Luke, our Luke from when he is in the throes of training Kylo Ren prior to when everything goes sideways for him. So he is a older but not old man Luke, and he is in kind of the height of his Jedi master powers, I suppose, where he's actually training someone, where he is the big bad Luke Skywalker that I have wanted to see on screen forever. And while we don't really get to see it, this look is what I really, really hoped to get a hold of in figure form and then, of course, on screen. So it's nice to finally get this, because all we have so far is a vintage collection figure, and then there is a black series coming, right? And I think that for the most part, this figure is pretty solid. He has some limitations when it comes to articulation, but he looks really good, and I think he certainly looks a lot better than the promo shots ever made him seem. He looks better than the package shots, and while he's not as immediately awesome as the Han Solo figure was, I think that this guy has grown on me quite a bit as I've kind of played around with him before getting to this review, especially when it comes to this likeness. So let's take a look and see what he can do real quick. He's kind of standard for the Star Wars line, really. So you've got a head that can look up and he looks down. The neck does move to help you accommodate some of this movement. The head tilts really far. You've got rotation, of course. Arms go out at the shoulder. There is a little bit of butterfly action here, but not much, because he does, of course, have the rubbery robes around him. You can swivel at the shoulder. You've got your Figuarts elbow here, which basically only gives you 90 because of the robe design here. And then you've got a ball hinge at the left wrist, so go all over, do that whole thing. It is an angled pin, at least when it comes to one of the other hands, and I'll discuss some frustrations there. You've got a ball peg over here on this side because it's a gloved hand that reaches over top of the wrist, so it helps to aid movement there. You've got a waist twist, so he can swivel back and forth, forward, backward, and then side to side a little bit. The robe just kind of gets in the way of everything. It's a ball peg that goes up into the chest cavity. Legs kick outwards. They will kick further than that, but of course things are in the way, so let's be realistic here. They kick forward only about that much without really straining. They go backwards a decent bit. You, of course, can rotate up there at the thigh. You can bend your knees back pretty far, but of course, the robe is in the way, as usual. And then you've got rotation, and then you've got hinge up and down, rocker side to side, and toe articulation at those feet. So he is, again, he's pretty standard. He is not all that dynamic, and most of that just comes down to the fact that he's got what is realistically a very big glove that sits over top of the body. I like the way that this robe looks, but there's no denying the fact that it does stop him from being as mobile as he could be. All that said, of course, I am here for the looks on this figure. There is no denying it. I've made it pretty clear that this is a version of Luke, as far as new canon goes, that is the version of Luke that I wanted to see on screen for so long. And we sort of get it, sort of kind of, and I think he looks good this way. I like this look. I think it very much works with a Jedi Master type of look. He's got a darker robe, which I think looks just cool to begin with. And then it's a very, very Jedi bodysuit. You've got the tunic, you've got the hood, and then you've got just a very Jedi look. It just happens to be outside of the norm from what we're used to, really. And I think they did a pretty good job here. notwithstanding the fact that some of the look does hinder the articulation. So you've got the sleeved robes here, so you've got the arms that are done up as sleeves, and they do have a lot of texture all over them. You've got the gloved hand here, which I think is a great touch, that it's a brown glove. You've got the belt with a little bit of paint on the buckle. Most of the figure doesn't really have a lot of paint. You do have your wraps down here at the boots, and I do think that the actual feet of the boots is maybe a little weird. Something about it doesn't really sit right with me. I feel like they should be at least a little bit darker, but I think it's going for more of a he's on Crait kind of thing. Somewhat like that, but then again, he's not really there, so I don't know. Something about these seems slightly odd. They look darker and they look lighter depending on what you're actually looking at from time to time, so your mileage may vary on whether that really bothers you. I do really dig the tunic that he has. I love the fact that the hood is part of that inner tunic, and then you've got the kind of rubbery robe piece here, which does have a slit at the back to help pose it a little bit, and it has a ton of texture. It flows well with the arms, and it kind of shimmers in the light just based on how it is molded. But really, I mean, and you know where I'm going with this now, that really the big thing here, the star of the show, is the head sculpt. Something that at first glance I thought, well, that's not right, when I was looking at the original promo shots, the prototypes, and as things kind of progress, I thought, well, this is going to be awful when I finally get it. But when I got it in hand, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. Because at first glance, I originally thought, well, hell, this is Chuck Norris. This is not Mark Hamill. This is not Luke Skywalker. The original prototypes and promo images for this thing were really, really weird. Just like the Han Solo figure looks better than the promo images, this figure looks better than the promo images. He looks better than the box art. I do think that this guy did take a little bit of getting used to really appreciate what's going on with this likeness, because the more I look at it, the more I see him in certain angles better than others. I do think this is a really solid Mark Hamill likeness. I think that they actually got it pretty good, and if you look at it in certain lights, in certain angles, he looks more like him than maybe directly. I'd say that the Harrison Ford likeness just kind of overshadows everything when it comes to these two figures as, you know, contemporary releases of one another, but I do think this is a really solid Mark Hamill. It definitely is ever so slightly off depending on how you look at him, but again, I've really grown to think that this is a lot better than I thought it was at first glance, so having a little time to stew on it helped me to appreciate this guy a little more. Paint applications on him are incredibly well done. Eyes are really good. Just the subtle changes in flesh tones on the face, on the skin, work really nicely. And the beard is incredibly well done. Hair color looks good. And it's that version of Luke, the slightly older but not old man Luke that I wanted to see. And I think for the most part, they did a pretty solid job here. Now, as far as accessories goes, this figure comes with, I'd say, probably everything you really need. He's not exactly stocked, but then again, there's not a great deal that they can really give him based on what he has in the movie. So to start with, you've got the big thing. You've got a swappable faceplate, and I think just like the standard face, this one has kind of grown on me a little bit. The more I look at it, the more that I can see Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. It's not as apparent right away, to me anyway, as the Han Solo figure was, but this thing has really grown on me, and it's certainly better than it ever was in the original promo shot. So this is a slightly more, furrowed brow type of Luke. His hair is kind of swept back because he's actually in the battle, quote-unquote battle with Kylo Ren. So there's a little bit of a change up. He's got a little bit of a gritting teeth going on, and I like this one. I think it's really good. It's probably not going to be the one I use, but I do like this head sculpt. And again, like I said, I think it's really grown on me in terms of just the overall likeness, looking more like Luke than I thought it would. And then we've got some extra hands. So you've got a set of gripping hands to swap out for the open palm relax hand. So you've got a non-gloved left hand and a gloved right hand. And I will say that the one big problem I had with this figure is swapping out hands. The peg on this thing was just so uncooperative on the left side. It's a ball hinge versus just the ball peg over on this side, and it just did not want to be swapped. Basically, it fought for way too long. So your mileage may vary on that, but it was definitely an annoyance. And then you've got the least interesting accessory for me. We have got the dice that he gives to Leia. It is an incredibly small thing that I'm likely going to hopefully not lose, but you've got those. I don't feel that that's even remotely a useful accessory until we get a Leia that looks like she did in episode 8. So there you go. And then we've got the main event accessories as far as weaponry goes. So you've got an unignited lightsaber hilt that can peg, or it clips onto his belt loop loop there. And then you've got the actual ignited blade, which he can hold pretty well single-handedly or two-handedly, of course. It does pop apart in the middle to help you get it in his hands. Sculpt is nice, size is good, translucent blade is nicely done. So again, he doesn't have a ton of stuff, but he has pretty much everything he could have. So overall, this figure is certainly not without its faults, but for my purposes, I'm pretty happy with him. Granted, the Han Solo figure completely just casts a huge shadow over this guy, because while Luke is always my preferred character when it comes to Star Wars, that Han Solo figure is just so hard to top, and they came out together. So you automatically think, well, he's not quite as good as Han. But at the end of the day, this figure is really solid no matter what. He is, however, limited in articulation. That's definitely the big problem for me overall. You know, like he can't do the brushing off the shoulder move really well. He can't really do something like that. But the look of the figure, I think, works really nicely. He has a solid array of accessories, and that head sculpt, well, both of the faces really are very nicely done. You just might need to appreciate him with a little bit more time when it comes to him. He's maybe not going to be as exciting as the Han figure right out of the box, but now that I've had him and I've played around with him a lot more, there's no doubt in my mind that this is one of the best Luke likenesses we've ever gotten at this scale. So that's going to do it for this look at the SH Figuarts Battle of Crait Luke Skywalker. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.